Alright, so I saw this article on PCGamesN.com. Time sinks like AC Valhalla are ruining games, not microtransactions. Actually, in a way, I agree with him, because I do think that time sinks are a terrible thing. But I think it's because of microtransactions. That's why you'd see more time sink games. It's because they're trying to sell you the speed up boost, the XP boost, all that kind of bullshit. So I think this guy's right in a way, but I also think he has it backwards. It's like he thinks, basically the crux of the article, and I'll link it in the description so you can read it for yourself if you want, but basically, in his opinion, they make these, time sink games because they want to become a significant part of your life, which is true. It's true. It's like that's how it's why like MMOs, for example. You know, they talk about because he's complaining about PlayStation RPGs could put 50 hours of gameplay down as a back of the box bullet point. But he basically talking about how games they want them to become a significant part of your life so that you feel invested in them, so that you're willing to spend a bunch of money. And it's like, yes, but at the same time, there's the reason that microtransactions have become so insidious and so just invasive is because they're wanting you to spend the money so that you don't have to grind in a game. So I mean, like I say, in a sense, he's right because it's they do want you to spend a lot of time in the game, but what they really want you to do is they don't want you to spend a bunch of time in the game. They want you to spend a bunch of money so that you don't spend time in the game. Like they'll have all this stuff where, like in a single player RPG, well, hey, buy this booster pack or whatever, and you'll get double XP for 2 hours and some bullshit like that. It's like it's a single player RPG. What the fuck do I care? You know, because he's talking about, you know, microtransactions are typically definitive in terms like it's just cosmetic, which is right. I have no problem with cosmetic microtransactions because you don't have to buy them. Whatever, it's entirely optional. That's too vague. That's too nebulous. But in order to get you to buy these microtransactions, publishers don't have to just make a game you like. That game has to become a significant part of your life. I think it has more to do, again, like he's right in the sense that like these time sink games, the ones that don't respect your time, that want you to do these missions where you gotta backtrack all the way back to the other end of the map and come back and do this and all that other bullshit. They do that kind of stuff because they want to say, hey, our game's 60 hours long. Because that game like Uncharted or whatever, for example, they get shit on because they only got a 6-hour story. And it's like there's some truth to that because you want to know that you spent your money wisely. But at the same time, you don't want your time wasted. So like microtransactions, I think the biggest problem with microtransactions is because they want you to buy the XP boost, they want you to buy the drop rate boost, or they want you to buy this, that, whatever it happens to be. They want you to buy something that ordinarily, like I'll give you an example. In the 2K games, 2K basketball games, there are people who will day one, they'll buy the game and they'll instantly spend a bunch of money. I'm not sure how much it is, probably a couple $100 at least, to make your character a 99 overall, so that when you're playing online on the street, your character is like, badass. And you can do that without spending money. Work your way up, just play the game a whole bunch, and eventually your character becomes good, better over time. But now they've made it where doing that the exact same amount of time, gives you less experience than it did before, pushing you to buy the microtransactions to boost your character up. And that's the problem. That's why microtransactions are ruining everything. Because there's always games that hit you backtrack and games that, oh, they spent 100 hours in it. Hell, there were games on like PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 and stuff. Or Nintendo 64 or whatever that would have you do it. I mean, hell, they're, I forget their, I don't know what people used to call them. I used to call them, lootathons or collectathons or whatever. The Banjo and Kazooie, the Donkey Kong 64 game and stuff. Where you had to basically, there's 100 of these little bip-bops and stuff. You got to collect them. Then you also collect these, and you collect this and that and stuff. But they weren't selling you a pack that said, hey, there you can get 50 of these by paying $10 or whatever. So there was always games that wasted your time. It's that microtransactions now have made that so much worse. And plus also they throw on top of that a bunch of bullshit. Well, they're like, hey, you can get more of this, you can do this, all this shit. If it's just cosmetic, that's fine. I don't think most people have a problem with it. At least I wouldn't imagine. It's that when it affects gameplay, but more and more microtransactions are affecting the gameplay, in a negative fashion because they want you to buy the XP boost because they'll lower the experience you get normally. So that if you buy the XP booster, you're getting experience like it was before, essentially. Anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Like I said, I'll link the article here so that you guys can talk, so you guys can read it and think what you want and stuff, come up to your own conclusions. Like I said, I agree with him for the most part. I just think he's almost kind of got it backwards in a way. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.